Auckland, New Zealand, Christmas morning, 1953.
It is with profound regret that I have to announce that a most serious railway accident occurred to the 3 p.m. express travelling from Wellington to Auckland.
The Wellington-Auckland Night Express was supposed to arrive with gifts and loved ones. Little did anyone know that those red ribbons and Santa costumes would end up floating in the Whangaehu River. When New Zealanders woke up the next morning, they were confronted with one of the worst train disasters in history. No Christmas miracle could shield them from the traumatic news. Nature had taken its course, snatching the lives of 151 men, women and children in its wake. To take you back where it all began, Mount Ruapehu is a distinct volcano situated in the center of the North Island. It holds the title of being the tallest in that region. Its highest point, known as Tahurangi, is the peak of the entire North Island, and within its crater lies a lake fed by the Whangaehu River and several glaciers from the North Island. In 1945, a significant eruption occurred on Ruapehu that led to the creation of a substantial barrier made of rocks and ash, essentially forming a dam across the lake. This volcanic dam blocked the lake's natural drainage, causing its water levels to rise over time. This situation persisted until December 24, 1953. And on that fateful day, the volcanic dam gave way. The immense pressure from the accumulated water, combined with the force of the dam's collapse, resulted in the violent release of a lahar, a surge of water, mud and debris, down the river, uprooting trees and eroding banks as it rushed along the course of the Whangaehu River. Along the river, a significant distance downstream, stood the Tangiwai Bridge. This railway bridge, built in 1908, was supported by a number of solid concrete pillars. The lahar slammed into the bridge with full force, washing away 2 of its supports. To demonstrate the destructive power of this lahar, a single one of the bridge pillars weighed more than 200,000 pounds. But the force of the water, mud and debris was so strong that it not only displaced the pillars, but also carried them a significant distance downstream. With its supports gone, the bridge sagged dramatically, barely remaining intact. Further upstream, an express train from Wellington, unaware of the horrific scene awaiting them, left the Tangiwai train station around 10:20 p.m. en route to Auckland. According to the station's witnesses, the train was moving at approximately 40 miles per hour when it passed by. This section of the railway had a maximum speed of 50 miles per hour, suggesting the train was travelling a bit slower than usual. The train, pulled by a steam locomotive, known as Class KA, consisted of 11 categories, including 5 second-class and 4 first-class carriages, along with a security van and a postal van. On board were 5 crew members and 285 passengers, many of whom were holidaymakers on their way to celebrate. As the train approached the bridge over the Whangaehu River and Tangiwai, a man named Cyril Ellis, who had noticed the state of the bridge, jumped onto the rail track, waving his torch to alert the incoming train of the danger. The driver, Charles Parker, either in response to this or due to noticing something wrong with the bridge itself, turned off the steam and started applying the emergency air brakes. Simultaneously, Lance Redman, the firefighter, closed the fuel valve to the fire. Despite these efforts, the train couldn't be halted in time, moving onto the bridge, which subsequently collapsed. As a result, the locomotive, its tender, and 5 second-class carriages plunged into the river. Joining them in their descent were 148 passengers, the driver and his fireman. Surviving in the rough and chaotic waters was of no chance. The leading first-class carriage hung precariously on the edge of the bridge. This was the 6th carriage of the 11, with 24 passengers battling for survival. The remaining 3 first-class carriages, the security van and postal van, alongside its 116 members, remained on the tracks. After the crash, Cyril Ellis informed the train's security guard, William Inglis, about the accident. Both men climbed into the sixth carriage, which was on the edge of the bridge, in an attempt to rescue passengers. With the help of another passenger, John Holman, Ellis and Inglis broke a window in the carriage and helped the passengers escape, before the carriage eventually fell off the bridge. Among the 24 passengers in the carriage, only one person had died, a young girl who got trapped in her seat and drowned. Shortly after the accident, a rescue team was dispatched from Waiuru, located 5 miles east of Tangiwai. This team included soldiers from the Waiuru Army Camp, radio engineers from the Waiuru Naval Communications Station, and workers from the Ministry of Works camp in Waiuru. By midnight, the first survivor had been taken to the Waiuru Camp Hospital, and by 4 a.m. on Christmas morning, the first body had been brought to a makeshift morgue set up within the camp. Tragically, 151 people lost their lives in this accident. This included the driver, Charles Parker, firefighter Lance Redman, and 148 second-class passengers and 1 first-class passenger. Some of the victims' bodies, about 20 in total, were never recovered and are believed to have been carried downstream to the sea, a distance of 120 kilometers. Among those who died was Nerissa Love, who was engaged to famous cricketer Bob Blair. The news of the tragedy reached the general population the next morning, rocking the entire nation. A fading glimmer of hope engulfed individuals who had loved ones on the train. They were confronted with the challenging task of identifying bodies or anxiously waiting for their loved ones among the survivors. A special investigation team known as the Commission of Inquiry was appointed to determine the cause of the accident. The bridge involved had 8 supports and 7 parts, but after the accident, 4 supports were damaged and 5 parts moved. The commission found that the mud from Mount Ruapeu moved the 4th support just before the train got to the bridge. The design of the bridge was also a subject of discussion. The bridge had been designed to resist flooding and the impact of lahars, but based on the knowledge available at the time of its construction, the size and power of the lahar that impacted the bridge was a lot more than what could have been predicted. The commission also noted that they had to consider the conduct of the crew members of train number 626 and the road traffic branch involved in the accident. They examined whether they had exercised reasonable care and fulfilled their expected duties and responsibilities leading up to the accident, and concluded that no one was found to be solely responsible for the disaster, as everyone had exercised their roles with due care and attention. Following the disaster, the New Zealand Railways authorities took significant steps to enhance safety measures. They introduced a mudslide warning system upstream of the river to alert train operators about rising water levels. This system was put in place in 1999 and relies on radar technology to monitor the river level. The data is then transmitted over a radio frequency link to the Waiuru station, and from there it's sent via a signal network to the Network Control Centre at Wellington Station. If there is a change in the river level, an alarm is triggered to alert the staff. If the change indicates a serious risk, the control centre immediately adjusts the signals on both sides of the Tangiwai Bridge to dangerous and issues radio warnings to keep trains away from the affected area. The system is designed with a fail-safe function that automatically sends a fault signal to the control centre. Starting from 2002, this system has been complemented by the Eastern Ruapeu Mudflow Warning and Alarm System, AirLaws. This comprehensive approach proved its effectiveness in 2007 when a mudslide similar in scale to the 1953 incident occurred on March 18th. Thanks to the early warning systems, trains and motorists were successfully stopped and kept away from the danger zone in Tangiwai prior to the mudslide. Additionally, the new bridge, which had been constructed with improved engineering standards, managed to withstand the mudslide impact. After thorough inspection, train operations resumed as usual. For their heroic actions, Cyril Ellis and John Holman were awarded the George Medal in New Zealand in 1954. William Inglis and a passerby named Arthur Dewar Bell were both honoured with the Order of the British Empire for saving 15 lives. The impact of the Tangiwai disaster on New Zealand left an enduring imprint on the nation's memory. The name itself has become synonymous with tragedy, raising questions about how a natural event with such unpredictability could result in such a significant loss of lives. But if there's one thing that the tale of Tangiwai depicts, it's the abrupt and unforeseeable nature of certain environmental tragedies that hold the power to change everything in an instant. Now, if you were captivated by this story, don't hesitate to watch another one. And why not give that like and subscribe button a bump before you head out?